I have a few things I want to talk about, and I'm not sure if this is going to sound cohesive or not. Um, I want to talk about some of the surprises and the joys and the frustrations of living the life we do, especially at our ages and with our health issues. I don't have a lot of health issues myself. I mean, I have injuries, another subject altogether. Um, but you know, there are things about this life that surprise you and appall you and torture you. And you know, there's some of the greatest things in your life, obviously, can happen on a homestead. I'll tell you some stories about some chickens first. Every morning, Ripley, the little sort of a wheaten and white-colored Easter egger hen that she was the first one I named because she was so brave. She'd run up to me in the brooder, and I said, "You're just brave. I'll name you after the bravest woman I know, Ellen Ripley from Aliens." Or Alien, the Alien series. That character was so tough. And so Ripley she did turn out to be quite the adventurer, let me tell you. But now every morning Ripley has taken to jumping on, there's a little roost bar we've attached to one of the posts in there we call it the Princess Bar because my original bantam coach and hen, we called her the Diva Princess, and she had to have her own little roost bar because she was better than everybody else. So, well, actually, it was to keep her from getting beat up on a little bit when she was younger. But every time we have a bird that is hassled, you know, we always make sure they have another place to roost at night so they don't have to get with a group necessarily every time. Well, Ripley has taken to every morning when I let that group out, she doesn't go out. She jumps on the Princess Bar and she waits for me to pick her up and hold her and pet her and love on her every morning. And she'll stand there and she will stand there and she'll stand there. And if you put her down too soon, I usually take her outside and sit her on the ground. She runs off. And if I put her down too soon for her, she'll end up back on that bar before I get out of there and finish my cleaning. So we have a little Ripley routine every morning. Since Cricket is now in with her group in the pen next door, the pen houses still Mace and Iris. Well, by the way, Mace is crowing. Not quite 8 weeks old, and he's crowing. They can crow as early as in the brooder. I've seen them crow at less than 2 weeks old. And now it doesn't sound like a crow. It sounds like "Boreet." I mean, when they stand there and they raise their head up and they utter that sound, it's a crow. And you usually go, okay, that's a boy. Early sexing there. But ever since they've been living in the pen by themselves, at night, suddenly, Gunner, one of the Splash Coaching boys, jumps up on the nest box that is next to that divider wall where the two little ones, are sitting on another Princess Bar that my husband put up there for them so they could see over and see the adults and they wouldn't feel so alone. They sit on that bar, which is against that divider wall between the two pens. Well, Gunner gets up on the nest box so he can watch them every night. I've never seen anything like it. And I said, "What are you doing up here, Gunner?" It's like he slept there 2 nights in a row, and then I realized this far away from him on the other side of the wall were the two babies, and he was watching them every night because their mom wasn't with them, and they were up there, and he had to be up there too, and I thought that was very interesting. And this morning, they were out free-ranging outside the barn pen, and they were at the perimeter fence that divides my main property from the other two lots. And that's where they usually like to hang out when they go out in the morning or behind the garden, whatever. But they were all by the fence. And they'd been out there for a while, and I said, well, my husband said, well, there's some of them are coming home. Let's just get them all home. And so I called them all home. Well, Magnus wouldn't come. He's one of the buff bantam coaching roosters. Him and Forrest are the buff colored ones. He wouldn't come. And I said, Magnus, come on. And that was very unusual that he would not come at all. And I went back to get him, on a pole so I could herd him back, and that was when I realized why he was back there. Somehow Cricket had gotten through the livestock fencing Now it's got, openings like this at the bottom, like 3 inches by 3 inches high by 4 inches wide, and then it graduates to 4 by 4 inch holes. And they've never gone through there before. Somehow she got through there, and she was in the pasture. First time this has ever happened with an adult bird. She was in the pasture digging around, and he was not going to leave her. And I said, good boy, Magnus. Because I would not have noticed she was out there, because I don't look for them out there. But eventually I would have gone looking for her, because I would have realized she's not there. But he decided that he was going to stay with her. He was not going to leave. Excellent job, little guy. And I said, Cricket, stop this. So I had to undo the gate, go out there and go get her and bring her in. I hope she's not going to do that again. I would like to put horse fencing on that and replace that livestock fencing. But we'll have to wait and see if that happens. And then later this day, Bodie, who is the head rooster, the head splash coach and boy in there, I was bringing them inside the barn, into their pen inside the barn. Everybody was in there. Bodie wouldn't come in. And I said, Bodie, what is wrong with you? He goes outside the door and he does this weird scream. Ah! He always does that. It seemed like for no reason, he'll just scream or yell or something. And I said, Bodie, what are you doing? And I go out there and I realize why he's out there and he won't come in. Cricket is in the dust hole down at the fence, and she is not coming. She's decided she doesn't have to do anything that we tell her. Now that she's had babies and she feels special, she's not going to come. So he was not going to leave her. He was letting me know there was still a hen out there. So all three, these boys have really stepped up and become excellent flock leaders. And that's one of the wonderful stuff about having chickens. And then there's always the flip side, because there is the circle of life in a barnyard. I had a friend a long time ago, acquaintance, we weren't super close friends. My friend Lady Hawk also knew her from our backyardchickens.com associations. And this lady and I, she had a quilting business, and she wanted a set of Delaware eggs that I had, and I really didn't want to ship eggs at the time. And I said, well, what? I said, I tell you what, I'll trade you. If you can get me just a box of whatever, now she always uses high quality fabrics, which I always do too, high quality quilters cotton fabric. And I had seen some of the fabrics that she used. I said, if you will get me a box of fabric, small, just give me a box. I didn't even specify how big a box. Just send me a box of some fabric that you maybe don't want, maybe you're not using, and I will send you the eggs. So we'll do a barter. And so we did that. She sent me this humongous box of fabric. Oh my goodness. And so she got her eggs and I got the fabric. But she also got eggs from, I think, another Delaware breeder. Well, she's one of these people that was kind of more of a breeder type than they're not pets, they're livestock kind of person. She took care of them, but she was not one to just cuddle her chickens and hold them and whatnot. And she had a Delaware hen that used to jump on top of the coop, and she would go from the coop to jump over to another building, and she was always getting out of the pen that way. She found her a secret trail she could follow to get out of the pen, and since she was always in trouble, my friend named her Floozy. And there's a famous picture from Backyard Chickens from years and years ago where she caught Floozy in the act, and Floozy was looking over the edge of the building with her head cocked down like that, and she was probably fussing her out, and she put a caption on there. What'd you say, Lady Hawk? She was teasing my friend, but Floozy lived a few years, and then Floozy died. I can't remember what happened to her. She died of something, probably I don't know what it was that killed her, but it wasn't a predator, some kind of health problem. And she told me, she said, I never intended to become attached to chickens. And she said, but it really hit me how much I was attached to this one hen when she died. She said, that really hit me. And I think that is a good lesson. People don't understand how much they just get into your soul. There's a lot about this life that people don't expect. But if you do get into this life and you have any kind of livestock animal, you need to understand there will be a circle of life. That means some will be leaving. Hector he's still with me, but he's having a lot of bad days. He cannot stand up very long. He will use every ounce of energy he has to pull himself outside if I let them out, and he will go outside and he will collapse on the ground. He will watch his hens. He does everything he can to take care of his hens, no matter what. He is not going to be around much longer. I have already dug a grave for Hector. And it is actually, I noticed I did some weed whacking over the last couple days. Oh my gosh. Ugh, ouch. It had gotten really overgrown out there in what I call the graveyard, one of the main graveyards where we buried some of our birds. And I had knocked back the grasses and all that kind of stuff. I may have to change my battery in a minute. I've knocked down all the grasses and everything around Isaac's grave, Swade's grave, and the big hole I dug for Hector. And I noticed that it was like an elongated triangle with Swade at the point, and then Isaac, and then Hector. And I thought, boy, there's a triumvirate of heroes for you. Every one of those roosters will have died of old age. And they have faced predators, but old age is what is going to get. It got Isaac and Swade, and will get Hector. Even though you don't think that they're that old when they're 5 and 6, they have a high-stress life. But there is the circle of life. As Hector's leaving us, Mace is coming into his own, and he's crowing at going on 8 weeks old. And you think it's going to get easier when they go? Not if you're attached to these birds, and you will find yourself unexpectedly attached, just like my friend Kathy was, to Floozy. Just the ones with the big personalities, the ones that live longer, like my 2 14-year-olds who died this last year, you'll find yourself attached to these animals much more than you ever thought you would. And yet, I would rather have had them and lost them than never to have had them at all, because they've added such value to my life. And yet, there are days on this property, like digging the hole for Hector. Hang on, I've got to change my battery. Curse of my life, this camera is a great camera, but it has a very short battery life. There are days like digging Hector's grave, which had to be quite large. I mean, my Brahmas are big birds, but they're more heavy birds. They're not really long. Hector has a very long back, and he's a big rooster. So he needed quite a large hole. And this channel is not called Roots, Rocks, and Feathers for nothing. This is root ridden. There are big ribbons of sandstone. You never know when you're going to hit rock on this place. And finding a place that the shovel will even go into the ground sometimes is difficult. I found one, but getting a shovel into the ground is one thing. When you want to dig a hole that is, 2 feet deep and 2 feet wide in both directions, that's kind of hard sometimes. And I was out there digging, and with my broken leg, my knee is very painful and it pops sometimes. So is my other one now, because I've stressed it so much because of the other one being weak. It's not really weak now. I'm strengthening both these joints, but it's still digging that you can't really dig with. I'm not right-handed. I can't really dig with the right foot because it just doesn't work that way. The shovel's then off to the side, and it's really difficult to do that. But trying to dig in the ground is hard around here, and I'm digging thinking, now my husband couldn't do it. He has a very bad knee. He also has severe arthritis in his big toes, and that's extremely painful to even walk, much less push a shovel into rocky soil. And I'm not going to call him to do that. I'm not helpless. If anybody thinks I'm helpless, you must have been watching some other channel. I'm not helpless. But some days when you're doing something by yourself for the 3rd or 4th time, and you're frustrated, and you're thinking, I shouldn't have to do this. I'm almost 66 years old. I'm supposed to be slowing down. I'm supposed to be having people, put me on a pedestal. I'm supposed to be, the elders of the family. You're supposed to be, if you know what I'm saying. It's like my friend Rachel and I are always lamenting. It's like at our ages, and she's a couple of years younger than me, when we should be able to slow down and enjoy the fruits of what we've put into our lives for the last so many years, we can't. We have to ramp up. And because of what the elites have done with this country, we've got to ramp it up. We can't slow down. We have no time to slow down. But you're sitting there and you will feel sorry for yourself. Let me tell you, you will feel sorry for yourself sometimes. Most of the time, I'm on an even keel, and I know how blessed I am to have been able to do the things I've done, to be able to pay off my mortgage, to live in this place which had so many unforeseen blessings attached to it that we never would have imagined when we bought it. But there are days when I think this place is going to kill me. It is going to kill me. It's going to be the death of me. And then there's other times when I think, and when I know this place is going to be my salvation. Not save my soul. That's settled, and that has nothing to do with physical things here. But it's going to be my survival. It's going to be our survival. It may be the survival of my sons too. It is going to save us. And what we've put into it is going to come back in spades, because the effort you put in may not always be proportionate to what you get back, but you can't get back anything if you don't put in anything. Some days this place is so chaotic, I think I can't stand it. I want something manicured with a privacy fence around it. I just want something with nice little raised beds and everything nice and neat and orderly and symmetrical. And I've always said I am haunted by visions of perfect order from when I was a realtor and everybody had their house on display, and it was always nice and clean. Not always. The bad ones weren't, but most of the time it was nice and clean and orderly, and the junk was put away, and visions of perfect order. That's not going to be the case on a homestead, so get ready for that. Best you're going to hope for is organized chaos, but just when you think that place is going to kill you and be the death of you, you got to think, no, it's not. It's going to save me. It's going to save my family. But you got to put stuff into it. You're not just going to move into the woods and sit there on your laurels and think it's going to save you. But just know that when you start homesteading or when you start raising livestock, there are going to be some serious ups and downs. And you just hope the ups or the even keel days are going to be a lot better than the downs. But just know there's going to be downs, and yet the downs are still part of it. You can't avoid it. I can't avoid these birds dying that I absolutely adore, some more than others. But the alternative is never to have had them at all, and I don't think that bears thinking of sometimes, especially the ones I really love. So Hector's on his way out, and Mace is on his way in. He's growing, he's crowing. So cute. I wish I could get that on video. It's so cute. And, just the circle of life. The garden, when you plant the seeds and you tend the garden and you weed it, and then you harvest the fruit, and then it dies back, and then you have to clean it up, and you got to prep the soil for the next season. It's just always a circle. You're going, and you will feel like you're going in circles. Let me tell you that, okay? You will feel like you're going in circles sometimes, but just slow down so you don't get dizzy. But just remember, nothing worthwhile is ever easy, ever. And I could apply that to what's going on in our government and all that kind of stuff and try to change things there, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to talk about the homestead today. There's a lot of lessons on a homestead, and you can apply them to the rest of your life as well. And hopefully you've learned enough lessons in life that you will apply them to your homestead. And you will be frustrated, and you will think, I don't know how to do this. Some things will flummox you entirely. you won't get it. You won't know what is eating your plants. You won't know why your tomatoes look like they've got weird bullseyes on them. You won't know all kinds of weird stuff. That's the thing going on right now with mine. With a couple of mine, they got this weird, look like they got like bullseyes around them. The tomato looks good, but the coloring is odd. So, but we're going to have plenty. In spite of the weirdness and the pests and all that kind of stuff, we're going to have enough to put away. So that's just what I want to say. I hope it made any sense. But, you know, there's such wonderful moments on homesteads, in your garden, and there's satisfaction, there's intense satisfaction, and there's fun, and there's entertainment, and there's just sitting there and looking at the brilliant sunsets in the winter. Sunsets in the summer are never as dramatic as they are in the winter. And the stars are never as bright as when you can see all of them. So, I hope this made any sense, that the lesson made any sense at all, but I've got to quit rambling or I could go all day. But anyway, y'all think about that. Think about it. Have a good weekend.